Gravatio est. Enigma crudelitas est.
As I was at Cahokia, I pondered if inside the monk's mound could be the remains of a Nephilim giant, echoing back to the deluge of the Garden of Eden in Egypt. If you haven't seen my other biblical enigma videos, please do so. As someone with a master's in landscape architecture, this is one of the greatest landscape architectural wonders in the world, maybe second or third to Japan's Kofuns. Although most of the artifacts they found so far date to about 1,000 years, I think this is just the tip of the iceberg, simply the artifacts of the last inhabitants of Cahokia, City of the Sun. For the mound builder cultures goes back to at least 3,500 BC, and I think Cahokia could be that old. Unlike rigid architecture, earthworks can be reshaped a lot quicker, so it's possible a couple iterations of different master plans could have been constructed. It was Dr. Timothy Schilling who proposed a hypothesis that Monk's Mound may have actually been built within 20 years instead of 200 years. To build it that fast, they would have had a faster way of transporting the soil and the rocks used for layering to reinforce the mound. The technology that they would have needed would have been some kind of interlocking wheelbarrow design, or maybe a two-man box stretcher. Now, most believe Native Americans never had beasts of burden, but it could be possible they may have domesticated bucks to pull small carts. And there is evidence to show that they were able to move very large trees and erect them as poles, so they must have had ropes and sleds, which may be more efficient than a wooden wheel. If they had sleds, they may have used deer to pull the sleds, similar to how Eskimos used reindeer. I would not rule out this possibility to explain how they were able to build this mound within 20 years. Chiefs don't like to wait until they're dead for a project to be completed. Sometimes chieftains may even redo a whole master plan to rid the last chief's accomplishments due to political competition. Architecture is always changing, especially the landscape, so what we could be seeing here is simply the latest iteration. Keep in mind, Cahokia sits in the Mississippi alluvial valley, prone to flooding and shifting of the river and streams. This may be a factor in the demise of Cahokia. So is there a chamber inside Monk's Mound? Well, according to the Circular Times article, archaeologists have discovered something astonishing. What appears to be a large stone structure beneath the site's largest earthen mound. The stone was discovered accidentally on January 28, 1998, during drilling to construct a water drainage system within Monk's Mound. This is astonishing, said William Woods, an archaeologist from Southern Illinois University at Edwardsville, who is leading the investigation of the mystery structure. It's so unexpected that it would never have entered your mind before, he said. The stone is at least 32 feet long in one of its dimensions. It is buried about 40 feet above the surface of the terrace on the western side of Monk's Mound, and well above the mound's bottom. Researchers believe it may be made of cobbles or slabs of limestone and sandstone. Even if the parent structure turns out to be no larger than this, it would be still a dramatic find. Stone does not occur naturally in Cahokia, so any stone would have had to been brought in by humans. Stone is uncommon at excavations there. There's no question this is a unique discovery, said Melvin Foiler, an archaeologist at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. It's totally unexpected. He is widely considered the godfather of Cahokia's archaeology. Cahokia Mounds is the largest archaeological site in the United States and would have had about 20,000 people, but only a couple thousand would have actually worked on the mound. The mystery was discovered about 10 o'clock on a cold, windy Saturday morning amid snow flurries as workers drilling into the western side of the mound. Andy Martinoni Jr. and Stephen Fulton, both Southern University archaeologists, were on duty at the site when the drill operators reported hitting a rock about 140 feet into the side of the hill. He drilled on, but the drill bit broke after cutting through about 32 feet of rock. Martinoni and Fulton talked the situation over for a few minutes. We talked about a possible drain, a tomb, all kinds of wild stuff, Martinoni said. Comparing the feel of the drill with countless other operations, the drill operator told him the structure seemed to be made of some kind of large stones, apparently placed together. That gave the archaeologist more reason to think it might be some kind of tomb or chamber. Martinoni called Woods, who had just gone to bed after staying up all night writing a report. "You won't believe this," Martinoni told him. "We hit some stone at Monk's Mound." Woods and his colleagues plan to investigate the finding this summer, without harming the mound. Investigative techniques to be used will include seismic waves, drilling, and testing for electromagnetic impulses. A few years later, they did use ground-penetrating radar to discover that there was something solid inside the pyramid. Now, I think this is what they'll find if they decide to excavate. These are the mystery stone chambers and walls of New England, for which I visited while staying at some cabins. Some have hypothesized that these could have Solutrean origins from Europe, or built from some pre-Celtic tribe that crossed the Atlantic and assimilated with the Native Americans. I think Cahokia could be sharing some of this cross-pollination of the early explorers who brought over this dry stack stone technology or architectural style. Most likely it was just a small number of them who brought over this architectural style, eventually mixing with the Native Americans to the point where we can't find hardly any genetic evidence. Another idea is that the mound builders were originally part of the tribes of the Mayans, who migrated north and assimilated with the hunter-gatherer tribes, and also partially mixed in with the pre-Celtic tribe that may have came over from Europe. So I think they will find some kind of stone chamber inside the mound, for which they have found in other mounds. Whether there's some kind of Nephilim giant, I think is very unlikely, because even if Cahokia is 5,000 years old, I just don't think it's old enough to even go back far enough to encounter this Nephilim or Aryan race of superhumans created by the fallen angels in Egypt, where they were dispersed. See my other videos for more details. If they do find some unusual skeletons, the height has to be around between 8 to 9 feet and show evidence of polydactylism, with 6 fingers and 6 toes, for which there has been a few unusual cases in Israel and near Egypt. This genetic disformality could be a remnant of the mutation caused by the fallen angels. Over time, the genes mutate back to normal humans, or the genes simply just turn off, as natural selection puts everything back to its normal design that God had intended. A few unusual large axe heads is not enough evidence to prove this legend. We need to open up Monk's Mound. So long as we put it back together to its original design as an architectural historical restoration project, I see no problem in it. As a landscape architect, I would be proud to be a part of that project. And right now, Cahokia is looking a little sad, and I think we need to do something about that. Just as we see forts being recreated to tell about early American history, I think so too we should recreate all of Cahokia and bring back tourism, bring back that history that is lost to a lot of Native Americans and the average American. I think this would bring great respect and attention to Atlantica's native culture, as I would call it, to rediscover that culture for which it's lacking in Americans. And maybe Disney Studios or Studio Ghibli could make a fantasy movie giving tribute to the Mississippian Mound culture. It is quite profound how much history has been lost in the Mound cultures, and we need to bring that back, I believe. As a landscape architect, I would love to recreate some of the mounds that have been completely destroyed. So I think we need to bring back that identity of Atlantica. What do you think? If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you click on the bell button to get early notifications. I just got my community tab, so I'll be posting a few art pieces of mine and some other images. So click on that notification button here and leave a comment. This has been Enigma Seeker. Keep seeking those enigmas.
Enigma depravatio est. Enigma crudelitas est.